I'm Samuel. I work in the marketing team at Outkit, and my day today is looking after our Outkiters community and press and doing all the things behind the desk, really. I do go out and do my own cool things here and there, but not like these guys. These guys do crazy, amazing things. So they'll be the interesting ones tonight. And I just wanted to basically fly the flag for Outkit. It's really nice to be able to host these sort of things. And yeah, hopefully we can keep doing these more and more as we go through the year. But yeah, I'm going to I think the sign-ups has now started to sort of stabilise. So yeah, I'm going to hand you over to Al. It's really nice to have everyone on board, and looking forward to a cracking evening. Over to you, Al.
Cool. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, Outkit, for being regular and generous supporters of adventures and good stuff like that. Hi to everyone who's joining tonight. Got some experts from the Outdoor Swimming Society behind the scenes, which are going to be answering some of your questions, and we'll try and do our best to answer some of the other ones here in the group. So we've got three fantastic people to tell you everything you need to know about swimming and being in the wild and access and all these planning adventures and looking forward to the summer. So we'll just do a quick intro of you all. We've got Nadia, Calum and Kate. We'll start with Nadia. Do you want to tell us what's your name? Where'd you come from? Give us a quick hello.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm Nadia Shaikh. I'm currently in Glasgow at the moment, but I live on the Isle of Bute, and I work for the Right to Roam campaign.
Cool. Hello, Kate.
Hello. So I'm Kate, originally from Devon, now all the way away in Somerset, so very firmly in the West Country, and I run the Outdoor Swimming Society.
Cool. And good evening, Calum, contestant number 3.
Hello, I'm Calum. I am in Aberfeldy, which is right in Perthshire, so almost the Highlands of Scotland. And I work as a broadcaster and lots of various different things, often to do with outdoor adventure and outdoor swimming. And I think for me, at the moment, kind of swim, hiking, swim, trekking, that's my main adventurous passion.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Right, so my hope tonight is that we've got 1,000 people here, all interested in swimming in different sorts of ways. There's such a wide range of things, but I hope that overall we can try to empower everyone to find their own definitions of swimming adventures, to plan their own adventures, to realize it's not some sort of comparative game of this is good, this is bad, and to get all sorts of different people excited about adventures. So, Kate, maybe you can give us your thoughts on how you think, from your sort of swimming perspective, we go about empowering people to find and define their swimming adventures this year.
Well, I think the first thing is just that it comes from you yourself. I just think there's so many different ways to have an adventure. And I think what I've worked out with the crucial bits is that you just don't know everything before you set off. Like if you already knew everything that's about to happen to you, it wouldn't be an adventure, it'd be a day trip. And I think I used to stymie myself by thinking, oh, I've got to read all these books and these guides and study the maps, and I need to know what's going to happen. We need to know what's going to happen enough to keep yourself safe. But the whole idea is that you're improvising and you're near some sort of edge. Otherwise, it doesn't really feel that exciting. And I think the thing that people say to me most often, or maybe where we get stuck when you're actually in a rut, is like, how do you get going in the first place? You know, how do you begin? And so I just make a point in my everyday life of just always just keeping my eyes open to nice bits of river that you might drive over a bridge, you know, or a nice picture that you might see somewhere, or somebody saying something or doing something that you just think, oh God, that's exciting. And I'm going to stop talking in a minute, but my current one is my friend Kari, who I would like to say, we don't normally age check people, is 74. So there's no end to this adventure that is life, has started learning long distance butterfly. So we're going to do.
Wow, there's an oxymoron if ever there was one.
So yeah, we're all like counting how many legs we're doing, but I just think swimming's such a great vehicle because there's so many different ways to do it and so many different places to go, and you never actually run out. Like Callum's just told us he's interested in something, but one year you'll be into snorkeling, then it might be cold, and then it might be butterfly. You can just keep on going.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely. You say there's no need for guidebooks, but however, I would never go anywhere without my copy of the Outdoor Swimmers Handbook or the Trespasser's Companion, 2 essential books for any journey. And also, it's very good to wear a nice, comfortable, warm hoodie, like my Outdoor Swimming Society hoodie. And So I can do a full-on marketing spiel. Look at this, my Right to Roam t-shirt. Here we go. Right, there's the this commercial plug subtly put in. Both of these books, though, are brilliant. Joking aside, Calum, what's your way you come to thinking about this? So trying to empower people to find their own swimming adventures. What's your take on it?
It's very much like Kate says, to be curious, and that is whether it's looking at maps, thinking at a river, can I go up there? Can I go for a swim? Yeah, literally, as you're out driving, if you're a passenger in a car, it's a better way to be looking out the window all the time. Where I live, I've got a variety of places on my doorstep, but most of them, no one ever goes to swim in them. No one goes to these streams up the hill. So it's a case of going and having a look, and maybe you're out for a walk. Combine your walk with, could I go for a swim? Go back to the same place and try again. It's finding that curiosity, and once you start to do that, it becomes much easier. Then it's easy for me to say, oh yeah, just be curious and go and try something. If you've never done it before, it can be hard to take that first step. So make it really easy for yourself. When you're on a walk near a body of water, could I swim across there? Plan that. And then once you do, it's a paradigm shift. Once you take that first step, your mind becomes open to what you could do, where you could be swimming, what kind of swimming you could do. The last few years, I was really into cold water ice swimming, did some competitions. But this winter, I've just been like, I barely swum, just been more duking in cold water because I've shifted into having a focus on other things. So don't be afraid of, changing. And, some people, long distances are things. Some people, it's finding ice water. Yeah, don't be afraid of trying things and changing your mind as you go as well. Don't stick to one thing.
Yeah, I also agree on this whole curiosity thing. Whenever I do talks or events or anything, I always like to look on the Google Maps and Ordnance Survey maps, see if I can find a bit of river near to the event. Many a swanky corporate talk I've turned up to with wet boxer shorts. There's always an opportunity for this sort of thing. Nadia, move on to you. What about you? What's your way of getting people to think differently about their own takes on adventure and getting different people excited about swimming adventures?
Well, I mean, I'm a naturalist at heart, and so curiosity is absolutely key. And for me, I'm obsessed with the tiny and the small, and so it's in the noticing of the small things around me that draws me in. So this is all new for me, right? Like I grew up in a kind of mining town, never really accessed the outdoors. So for me, feeling the sense of adventure and taking a step forward into the absolute unknown, terrifying, has always been, if I can just turn over that rock that looks like it could have an interesting bit of wildlife, it takes me into the water. And I think snorkeling is where I started. And I could do the same snorkeling patch like 50 times in a year, but because the seasons change, the whole landscape for me changes. I've been snorkeling the same patch now for 3 years, and every time it's completely different. For me, that's a big adventure each time. And I think I let the tiny things draw me in further, because I'm battling my own fears and boundaries by my curiosity. And I think if you can find adventure in the tiny, you will eventually find adventure in the huge.
Very wise, yeah. So your mention of snorkeling there reminds me of something that's totally relevant to swimming, but I love it anyway, which I don't know if anyone's seen in the last week or so, the fish camera. There's a canal system in the Netherlands which has an underwater camera, and if ever you see a fish, you press the doorbell and it opens a fish doorbell and they let the fish migrate upstream. Hopefully someone might put that in the chat. It's a great way of wasting time when you're at work. Right. So we're going to move on. The main aim in this is to try and get people enthused about adventures and to realize there is so much freedom and opportunity for swimming, that it's a really positive, simple, non-complicated sort of thing. But I think it'd be good early on, before I forget, to tackle some of the more sort of complicated, perhaps bureaucratic sides of the swimming world. So I'm not sure which one of you wants to go on this, so I'll just throw it out there. Explaining the upcoming Kinder Trespass event. I think that'd be a good thing to get talking about early.
I can do that one. The last couple of years, I think it might be 3 years, the OSS has all turned up for a swim in Kinder Reservoir around the anniversary date. I think some people will be there this year. I just think it's something now that is in the calendar and people are just, no one organises it, but people just tend to go. So that's Sunday, the 28th of April is the anniversary date. But this year, the
Sorry to interrupt you, Kate. Before you enter that, I think maybe just tell us what it is and why it is, and for the first timers here.
Okay, sorry. I think Nadia might know. Is it 95 years ago? I don't know, 100 years ago. I can't remember exactly how many years ago. But anyway, about that length of time ago, there was a mass trespass of Kinderscout at a time where it wasn't possible or wasn't legal to access a lot of land in England. And it's widely trespassed, is widely credited with being the event that helped create the, albeit limited, right to roam that we have at the moment. So in the last couple of years, the Outdoor Swimming Society have been going along so we can start making the same point, that we would like the right to swim in water, and specifically in reservoirs, which are often really close to towns. There's an awful lot of them about. They're still safe bodies of water as long as you don't go near any of the machinery. So there has been quite a bit of activity up there for the last couple of years, and we'd like to carry on going with that. And this year we're trying to encourage everyone to go to a reservoir near them. And I think Outkit are going to make us some really big red go swimming signs. So if anyone's watching this and they think, oh, I could go with a few swimmers or just for myself, then look out for the news in April elsewhere from the Outdoor Swimming Society, and we will be telling you more about how to publicise your swim and try and really push forward on getting more reservoir access.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kate. Very good summary there. So, Nadia, you are the driving force of a lot of the right to roam. Fantastic sort of stuff. Is there anything you'd like to add about this aspect of things, the right to swim, and then Pat, yeah, start with that.
Wolf, it's massive. Yeah, I guess the whole reason that we're here in the first place is that it's not commonplace for so many people to just think naturally you would jump into a bit of water, but it is very much what it is to be human. And I think we're having to, this kind of like, I guess starting on with from kinder onwards, we're having to like relearn that all of this is normal and within us, and this practice of understanding what's safe and being able to understand what our capability and capacity is, it happens with water, but it also reflects across the whole of the landscape. And I think I guess just to remember that what we're doing today is so that in the future, all of us will just be like, well, we know how to swim safely. And I think we're on this journey, starting with kinder. We're 92 years later, kind of, we're doing the work for another 92 years. So we shouldn't really be having to do this, I guess.
Yeah. So Calum, there's a question just, I've got a long list of questions here, but one's just popped up in the chat, which caught my eye, which says, I really want to swim in local reservoirs and would love to organise a mass trespass if only I knew how to do it. What does this person have to do?
Well, it depends where you are, of course. I live in Scotland, which has the incredible outdoor access code, which I would love to see replicated in England. I think I've never organised a mass trespass in a reservoir myself. So I think maybe, at least in terms of getting the word out there, you want to speak to people that either swim locally already. I think when you find the people who swim already, they are generally quite adventurous and slightly rebellious. So if you can get them to use that network that they've got to spread the word out there, tell the OSS about it too. You know, I'm sure it's the way to help spread the word. I've never organised one myself, so I couldn't speak from personal. I mean, Kate would be the better one to give the actual nuts and bolts of how to do it, maybe. Yeah.
Kate, anything you'd like to add to dig Calum out of his terrified looking hole?
Yeah, no, we definitely don't publicly organise one. Do not be seen as the organiser, because you will accrue legal responsibility of a mass event that you probably don't want. So it's a bit complicated. They tend to circulate these kind of trespasses with the kind of rave flyer on social media where no one is actually attached to the origin of it. And I would definitely suggest if anyone wants to do a mass trespass that they do it that way. Quietly, socially, offline, and definitely not on this webinar.
Okay, okay, excellent. Right, I'm going to change from those waters then to a slightly different topic of wild service, wild swimming, wild service. My fantastic commission-based plugging of books. I know that Nadia's working on one at the moment about wild service. So Nadia, what's your feelings about wild service, internal adventures, and how these sorts of things tie in with life in the water?
Yeah, so at the Right to Roam campaign, we've just published a new book called Wild Service, which you can pre-order now. And essentially what that is about, we needed to, I guess, we as a campaign have been talking for the 4 years the campaign has been running, that I guess it goes back to what I was saying earlier, there is a deep disconnect with us as a people and our natural landscape. And we're having to do so much talking about it as humans and nature being separate, where so much is the disconnection that there is this kind of tentativeness about swimming and going on adventures. And so Wild Service is really about repairing that deep disconnect that we've had as a people back into nature again, and understanding that we are nature, and if we had access to it regularly and we had agency to be in and protect on a regular basis, there is a reciprocity there that exists between humans and nature. Not only can you take from it, but you can also give back to it. So when it comes, I mean, we all have seen the headlines, right? The quality of our waterways and things like that. So from my point of view, when it comes to water and wild swimming, there is a wholeness to your experience in your adventure. It's not only getting to know water around you, but it's also getting to know yourself, getting through your experience with getting in the water and observing the wildlife, observing the river. What's happened to the river? Is there any plants growing by the river? Is there any wildlife? What can I do to protect it? Because Wild Service is a call to action that unless we all individually slowly build up and repair our broken relationship with nature, it's never ever going to heal. Rather than putting the responsibility on whether it's environmental NGOs or local government bodies or local councils, actually it's going to take a whole load of people having a whole load of better, deeper connections, and being in service, rather than I go to the reservoir to take my swim for me. It's kind of like the reservoir becomes part of you as well. And we've all got this collective responsibility to care for each other, right? So much of this is about, how do we make sure we're safe? All of this, we all have a responsibility to care for each other in that and teach and share, as well as caring for the environment as well. So Wild Service really leans a lot on Indigenous knowledge and culture, where there are cultures who still connect to nature, and believing that us ourselves can have that again, because there is a deep misanthropy, I think, in the West, that humans are a problem, they're too noisy, they create a mess, and all of this. It's simply not the case. We've just got a whole load of reconnecting to do.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nadia. I'm very much looking forward to your book. It sounds fantastic, and it's going to set us all thinking in lots of different ways. And you're so right that it strikes me often the fact that if I say to people, oh, I'm going to go for a swim in a river or a lake, they find that so weird, that swimming should be in this indoor rectangular cube that's full of chemicals and it seems so strange that's become normal, and that this disconnection from the wild world. And when you're swimming, you have that connection with nature, the connection with ourselves, and then also not just taking joy but taking the responsibility. So I love this sort of interlinking of so many things you guys are talking about, and I'd really like this webinar to move on to sort of joyful, carefree, whoopie-doo adventuring side of things, rather than the litigation and complicated things like this. But the sort of elephant in the reservoir, I suppose, is a question that keeps popping up time and again. So I think it would be a good one to address. For Kate, I think it'd be a good one for this, is the question someone has written in, and I sort of paraphrase here: my friends and I would like to swim locally. There's a reservoir with some very official looking signs about no swimming. How much trouble will I get in to swim there? And there's also this, I think this is just a general wider issue, that a lot of people worry about this more than getting excited about the joy and simplicity of it all.
Yeah. Right. The law has a similar effect on me to sort of mortgage terms and conditions. I kind of, I read it, I absorb it, and then it's the detail, it just vanishes. So let's just think about you on the banks of one reservoir. Hundreds of thousands of people in England and Wales are now swimming in their reservoirs, going past the no swimming signs and getting in. And I'm not aware of big trouble going on anywhere. So I think the first thing to say is that a lot of signs are complete lies. You know, well, the danger deep water one is obviously just ridiculous because you can't swim if it's shallow. But like my local reservoir has fines of £1,000. I'm not doing any criminal damage. Like, it legally is a completely empty threat. Like, they would have to bring a civil case against me for doing damage to the land in order for me to be in a court in the first place, and then they would have to prove that I've created £1,000 worth of damage by going for a swim to charge me. So that sign you're seeing is just utter nonsense, as is the one in the middle of the winter says, you know, danger, blue-green algae. You get a lot of those where they're trying to scare you out of the water, not not just legally, but by saying that it's in some way not safe for you to be in. So there's a lot of really sound, written by lawyers, not me who forget some of the detailed information on the OSS website, and I'm sure the team will be putting it on the chat. But broadly, my takeaway would be that you can probably slip into a lot of reservoirs in England without ever being spotted, without ever doing any harm, and without anyone knowing or caring or minding. So
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, I'm very much not a lawyer, but my approach to pretty much everything in life is that it is easier to seek forgiveness and permission, and a large smile and a friendly chat usually solves most problems. Thank you. It's good. Right, we've cleared up that nonsense. Calum, more of a sensible thing, but definitely a concern for lots of people, and particularly people new to the world of outdoor swimming, is the simple question of, is it safe? So what's your suggestions about either some advice or directing people to where to find the advice online? How do you tackle that issue? Because that is obviously a very important one.
Yeah, it's a question you hear quite a lot, you know, as an experienced swimmer, someone who's coming new to it, asking you, is it safe? And I guess the thing I always ask is, you know, what do you mean by that? Do you mean that you've heard it's unsafe? Do you mean that the current is strong, depending if you're at the sea? Do you mean it's got a strong tidal pool? What do you mean by that? And so it's trying to work out what people mean. So I think the more knowledge you have, the more experience you have, the better decisions you can make in terms of, is it safe? You know, is it what might be safe for me might not be safe for someone who's, you know, maybe not as experienced swimming outdoors. So yeah, how strong and experienced a swimmer are you? That's one thing to consider. How well do you know a place? You know, do you know what the tide's going to do? Do you know what the tide times are? Do you know what the weather's doing? Do you know how much rain there's been upstream? You know, do you know how much of a catchment area this particular bit of the river has? What's upstream in terms of, you know, is there a lot of agriculture? Is there, you know, are there going to be kayaks coming down and whitewater rafts coming down when you're in this nice calm pool, flying down this waterfall behind you? What do you want to get from your swim? So the way, obviously, there's a huge amount of resources on the OSS website. That's a place I send people to quite a lot. The more knowledge, the more skills you've got, the better decisions you can make and decide if a place or if a swim is safe for you. What might be safe on one day might not be safe the next day, just because of the rain that's come. You know, what's been washed down. You get trees washed down rivers, for example, that you might jump in a pool every single day, and after spate, there's a new tree sticking in there waiting for you to land on. Cool. So these are the kind of things that the knowledge you amass over time, and by also swimming with other people.
Yes, yeah, cool. Thank you, Calum. Yeah, the OSS website has got loads of great stuff. And the Facebook and Instagram pages, lots of information on there as well. Right, Nadia, I've got a question for you. It's a good question. It's quite a long question, so pay attention. As wild swimming gains in popularity, I'm seeing increasing number of guides to swimming spots being published. Do you feel this has the potential to cause what I call the Julia Bradbury secret walks effect? No offense to Julia Bradbury, who is lovely. The question, though, is based on her program, leading to places becoming completely overwhelmed and all the problems of irresponsible parking, litter, preventing emergency service getting in, erosion on the hills. And this is why it's coming to you. I would not wish a similar thing to happen with beautiful swimming spots. I hope for increased legal access, but not at the expense of the issues I've just raised. What are your opinions on this matter, Nadia?
Oh, what? It's a difficult one because I moved to the Isle of Bute so I could be at peace, which I've found. But there's a personal response that I need to give with my relationship with people and land, which is like I would have to give that up, knowing that other people would come and experience it alongside me. I guess I guess thinking from the Right to Roam's point of view, you know, 92% of the countryside is off limits. And so like we recognise that the population is channeled into these really small areas. That's just the fact of the situation that we've got. And so you get honeypot sites with really small car parks where everybody goes at the weekend, and it takes away that, sometimes for people, it takes away that sense of adventure, that you're having a private adventure, and you can find that peace in nature alone. And so I guess that's why we have our campaign, because why should we channel the whole population into 8% of land where there is insufficient infrastructure? So there's insufficient car parks, toilets, like bins, and there's insufficient education for people from cradle to grave. We need to be teaching people how to be responsible in wildlife, in nature, and there simply isn't that. I think Natural England spent about £2,000 a year on the countryside code in terms of educating, so that's what we've got. So there's two things here. There isn't enough space for us because we're blocked off from most of the countryside. Then there's the second internal work that we have to do around being frustrated at people and the public, and trying to find a little bit of joy in having other people around you. So I went to Hampstead Heath a couple of months ago, and it's a huge green space on the edge of London, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people walking, laughing, like everywhere. And actually I found the joy in that chaos. I saw people having a really nice time. I saw children playing. I saw dogs running about. But there's an incredible amount of biodiversity there. And it really challenged my wanting to get away from people. We've got used to this idea of like adventure and wilderness being in the absence of people. And so I think we all crave it. And I wonder where that craving comes from. But I think there's two things there, kind of figuring out what it is you've got in yourself, but also acknowledging that we have got a situation where there might be one small car park for this beauty spot that everybody channels to. I think that's just a condition of the situation we've got in. But I mean, if we did have an open landscape that was much, completely, we had this something akin to Scotland, it would literally spread people out a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully that answers it.
Yes, thank you, Nadia. Yeah, I think anyone who's interested in right to roam is always going to emphasize the word responsibly at the end of this. So none of us want crowded car parks and litter and all these sort of things. So it's all very much part of this, of learning to be connected with and love the landscape. So I mean, we've talked about sort of the legal side and the safety side and these sort of things. So I think it's probably time to launch into a bit more on this planning of thrilling swims, how we get excited about the great stuff of swimming. So Calum, why don't you kick us off? What's your give us an example for you of some sort of thrilling swim that you might be dreaming of or planning, and a brief outline of how you would go about making that happen.
Well, coming up with ideas is not hard for me. It's actually getting around to do them. I've got a massive list of things. Oh yeah, I'd love to do that. Oh, I've got this idea. How would I go about doing that? So for example, one place I've been going swimming regularly is a river not too far from me. Maybe I shouldn't say where it is in case everyone goes, because I think it's one of the most amazing places in the whole country in summer. The Loch Fascally, which two rivers meet, becomes a loch, but you can either walk or swim upstream to a waterfall, and then say you walk or run there, you dive in at the waterfall and you swim back down. So for me, it's very simple. It could be a couple of hours adventure. You could turn it into like an overnight adventure. And so for me, the planning is, where do I get in the water and where do I get out the water, and how do I stay safe in the middle? Because in a way, I'm quite happy if stuff goes sideways in the middle and I don't quite end up where I wanted to go in the middle, as long as I know I can get to the end. So for the simple purposes of this one, I set off with a bag with I set off with my OSS dry tow float, which can hold all my gear in it. So very simple, layers and a towel and something for my feet, because I don't know what it's going to be like in the water. Walk upstream, check the water's deep enough, get in safely, and then swim back down. And it totally opens your mind up to what the place is. You'll see people walking there all day, but who goes for a walk and then jumps in and swims back down? Swimming beside the canoeists and the occasional whitewater rafters. Hardly anyone does it. So it opens up your mind and it gives you that paradigm shift. So me, I want to work out the start and the finish. The middle, I'm confident that I can, as long as nothing's gonna, I'm not going over any waterfalls or whitewater rapids or something. The middle can be the adventure, as long as I know the start and the end.
Yes, that's a nice way of looking at it. Kate, what about you? How would you go about it?
Well, fairly similar, I think, and it's often an information gathering. In fact, we had a question here which I quite like. Can I read it out? This is
Sure, ignore my question. You ask the question. It's fine. I'll just drink my beer.
No, but Chris Clancy might be in the audience. Give us a little wave on chat if you're there, Chris. He said, I'm in a group that's hoping to swim up the Indian Arm, a fjord near Vancouver, Canada. We can find tide charts, but wonder what you can tell us about predicting currents in a narrow tidal body of water. So, I mean, I love this because this person has found somewhere they want to go, and actually, like, information starts gravitating towards you as soon as you've got a dream. You know, until you've got a dream, then you're nowhere. But having planned quite a lot of estuary swims with the big tidal range, so things like the hurly-burly and the dart 10K and the swoosh, which I'm sure the audience will, quite a few people here will be familiar with. The things that you really need to start doing is just your own observation. I think as swimmers, it's still quite, even though all of the world feels like it's already been explored, there's so much newness in water that actually you still end up on your own journey. And that's that's the really nice thing. So you can ask kayakers and anyone that's on the water what they think or what they know about a tidal push in one area. But the only way you're ever really going to work it out is by start doing it yourself, because your experience of water in a boat is just completely different when you're in the water. So Chris, if I was you, like I say, you can find your tide charts. Prediction of tides through narrow channels is really difficult, and the only way to do it is to keep looking at it, to do your own observations, maybe do what Calum was saying, but do a chunk of it at a time rather than trying to do a large stretch at once. Make sure you've got get out points if it's not going quite as you thought it might be. Maybe have a boat in case you need to exit the water, and enjoy.
Yeah, it's also, I think, a nice opportunity for local conversations, isn't it? Of finding people in the area and talking to them about local conditions, and they'll probably say you're crazy, and then you can get them to buy into your adventure and enjoy it. I also would it'd be quite easy to overestimate how far you might go in a day, particularly if you're trying a linear one. I once did an overnight swimming micro adventure, and I jumped in the River Thames far west of London and swam all day heroically, and then camped on the riverbank at night, and then swam on in the morning. And then when I ran out of time, my plan was just run back up the riverbank, and I was astonished at what a tiny distance I'd gone in my great trip, but it was fantastic. Yeah, I think I love the idea of planning swimming adventures and an excuse to go from A to B. That's sort of swimming excites me. But a nice part of it is it's so varied. I mean, each to their own. Go on, Kate.
I was just going to say, you've just reminded me of a really important thing, which is you can sit there in your desk trying to read the guidebooks and check with people online and get your information. There's just nothing that compares to actually going to that place. You find there are swimmers everywhere. You know, I remember going to an island, and I was thinking, oh, it'd be really amazing if you could swim over here. We went to the tea room. We met a woman who was the only person who'd ever done it. You know, she just happened to be serving cups of tea that day. And if you just give yourself a bit more time than the average modern human, you probably will meet someone who, you know, has got something to tell you about where you want to go.
Yeah, it's a lovely way to slow down, to really immerse in the place that you're visiting, to really get to know the landscape well. I mean, there's a question, where is it? Someone saying, oh yeah, here we are, links on it. Amanda says, I swam all over northern Scandinavia in fjords, rivers and the sea on a van trip a few years ago, and would love to do something similar in the UK. And then of course there's Roger Deakin with his wonderful book Waterlog. But Amanda wants some tips and suggestions about doing a similar sort of a project like that in the UK. So Calum, what would you suggest for a van / swimming adventure around the UK? That sounds very envy inducing.
Sounds like the perfect way to spend a summer, I think. I mean, with my come to Scotland, see the Highlands hat on, I'm going to say come to Scotland and see the Highlands. But in addition to being like a beautiful place, we do have the beauty, I guess, of the amazing Outdoor Access Code, the Land Reform Act, which means, you know, within reason, you can access all inland waters as long as you're not doing it, you know, with a vehicle. You can't just drive up to the edge of a loch if you're able to. But if you do it non-motorized, you can do it. And I would say, if it's possible for you, you might have to. The ferries might already be booked out, but the Western Isles, right up the northwest of Scotland, the most incredible place. You've got beaches, which if you wanted to, you made the effort, to find that kind of solitude and that adventure just for yourself. But at the same time, you've got amazing swim groups you can meet up with, and there's some incredibly inspirational people to go and do, if you wanted to swim with other people. So you've got that mixture. It's generally coastal swimming there, but you've got all kind of things. You've got beautiful beaches. You've got tides that do come in and wash you up. Not quite like the hurly-burly in Wales, but you've got some rivers, very small rivers, but you've got some amazing peaty lochs as well, which warm up in summer because of the peat. So that's what I'm recommending, up the northwest of Scotland, out into the islands if you can, but anywhere in the Highlands. It's the kind of place where you're driving along, you see somewhere, you stop, and you can have that thought of, can I swim here? Yeah, I can. And yeah, you might get some folks saying, what are you doing? But just do it.
Yeah, and I would add to that to allow some wiggle room within your schedule for the serendipity of spotting random places or getting a tip off from somebody and allowing that sort of freedom and discovery, and not rather than microscopically planning it. So Nadia, you're more of a sort of recent arrival in the world of swimming, I think, certainly than Kate and Calum. So question that might be one that you be able to answer is, someone's worrying, do I have to be a strong swimmer for swimming adventures? And they say, I'm more of a head up breaststroke kind of swimmer. Well, join the club. So what are your thoughts on that?
No, absolutely not. Because I'm listening to all these amazing adventures, and there's part of me that's got this deep envy. I'm a classic like jack of all trades, master of none. So I'm an okay rock climber, I'm an okay hiker, I'm an okay camper, I'm an okay swimmer, but my life is absolutely jam-packed full of joy and adventure. There's not one bit of me that feels like I'm still coming home at the end of the day going, I had the best day. And that might be, I was in the water for like 10, 15 minutes, just swimming backwards and forwards around the same spot and just being present. My joy equates to presumably other people's joy, whether they're on a really, really, really long adventure and doing something that they've been, was a big challenge for them. So you don't need to be a strong swimmer. You need to just swim, and gently and carefully. And I think one of the, I keep coming back to this idea of disconnection. Humans are incredible. Our sense of intuition and ability to sense danger and what the edge of our limits is absolutely pinpoint. We've evolved to do that. We've been unevolved because of the way we live our lives to listen to intuition. It's incredibly strong. And so like our ability to sense danger, maybe I'm getting too cold, maybe this is a bit too gnarly for me. Starting slow and listening to that, and you will build it up, as with anything. So I feel like, no, you don't need to be a strong swimmer. I think you need to take it slow, listen to yourself, and enjoy what the water gives to you, whatever that might be. And like honest engines, sometimes for me it is 30 seconds. Sometimes it's like half an hour, but I would say a lot of the time it's in the few minutes that I'm in the water. And until I get such a point that I can do maybe what Kate does, the joy that I've got still exactly the experience and exhilaration of experiencing like being an aquatic human is the best gift.
Oh, I love your enthusiasm. I love you say I come home saying I had the best time, which reminds me of the song that I've been properly binging recently by King Creosote called Blue Marble. He sings about I had the best time offered up by this blue marble. So there's my song recommendation for the evening. Good bit of Scottish music for you there, Calum. Calum, question, is it okay to do swimming adventures on your own?
Yes, it is, I think, but I'll caveat that with you've got to learn your own capabilities and over time build towards maybe doing adventures on your own. Don't try and take on the big things straight away. Don't try and swim 2-3 days down the Thames with a tent if you've never done it over one day, for example. So you test yourself, and you can actually learn a lot by doing adventures with other people. That's the time to challenge yourself, to push the boundaries. And then when you're on your own, maybe you're not doing something quite as risky. Maybe you're taking on a shorter swim. When we talk about an adventure, it could just be going to somewhere new that you've never been to that might be slightly tricky to get to, or you don't know how to get there. or it could be something that you take months planning. For every single person, what they define as adventure is obviously unique to them. So I would say yes, with the caveat that you've got to, as long as you know enough about yourself and how you deal with cold water generally, as long as you know enough about the environment that you're in and how to navigate it safely, then yeah, you can. And sometimes you get the most rewarding experiences because you are responsible for yourself, which I guess at the OSS we're always trying to encourage that responsibility, to take that responsibility for yourself. And you get that by learning skills, by learning from other people too, to get you there.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Calum. So one thing that's very enjoyable and endearing about swimming is this fairly simple, minimalist part of modern life. But Kate, people always like to know a little bit about what gear to take on a swimming adventure, and particularly I wonder, what are the little things that make a swim a bit more special, enjoyable, or even bearable for you?
Well, I think the basic for any would-be swim adventurer is to get one of those little dry bags from Outkit and put a pair of goggles in it. And I like the big screen ones where you sort of feel like you've almost got a sort of snorkel mask on, widescreen view of the world, and your swim stuff, and a little hammam towel or a microfiber towel. And I used to do that when I lived in London and cycled around in case I could ever get to the ponds or the Serpentine or anyone. And now I live in the country. I've just got a whopping great kit room that has got so much stuff in it that you wouldn't believe. So I've really gone from one end of the spectrum to the other. But I mean, I just think always having your stuff with you allows you to be an opportunistic swimmer. You could maybe learn from this at your meetings that you go to. You don't need to turn up with wet underpants. But what do I find really useful? I think tow floats are used far more often than they need to be, but if you're going to go somewhere that's busy with boats or you want to carry stuff, then it's really useful to have something bright on your head or a tow float to put things in. You can upscale that to a massive tow float or a ruck raft if you actually want to take a tent and walking boots and go on a proper kind of expedition. And what else do I find really useful? I love my long sleeved thermal swimming costume from Outkit because I'm actually really bad at the cold, and there's just so many people who want to tell you that it's all in the mind. I like to sneak in a little bit of extra warmth and people not realize that I'm cheating. So yeah, and then maybe some neoprene gloves or boots are really, really handy.
I like that Nadia gave a little gasp there. Nadia, what excited you about Kate's answer there?
It's because I love wildlife. I'm a naturalist. Jellyfish scare me really badly, and I just thought, if I wore that, they wouldn't sting me. I want one. I want one of them because I hate having to pull on my wetsuit if I want a long snorkel. And so I feel like that is the middle ground that I've been searching for my whole life.
Yeah, jellyfish with the origin from swimming of Sean Conway's gigantic, now iconic beard from his jellyfish dodging. So yeah, in the absence of beard, Nadia, maybe you do need an excellent Outkit long sleeve thing.
Yeah.
Calum, are you?
Yes, I would 100% say look after your extremities. So when you're talking about neoprene, especially, even if you don't want to wear a wetsuit, gloves, boots, one of those neoprene caps I wear under my swim cap makes you feel like a kind of superhero a wee bit. They are a massive game changer. But actually, one thing totally overlooked sometimes, I think, something to stand on when you're getting changed, when you're out of the water. It can be a simple carry mat, part of an old sleeping mat, something simple, a pair of flip-flops maybe. If you can keep your feet away from the cold ground as you're getting changed, is a sort of game changer for just keeping you more comfortable, I think. That's particularly about cold water, less so in summer. But yeah, keep your feet warm.
Yeah, I think a little square of cheap old camping mat is a great thing just to live in your rucksack at all times. You can sit on it so you don't get wet bum when you have a cup of tea. Yeah, that's a valuable thing on loads of adventures. I've certainly noticed in the last couple of years now, in cold water, my hands and feet hurt so much, which they didn't used to. And so I'm a complete convert to the neoprene booties and gloves, and often nothing else, which is a spectacular look. We'll move on from that horrific prospect to another horrific prospect from someone called Anna Lee, who had a really bad experience. She started cold swimming last year, changed quickly afterwards, dry, hot tea, etc. Afterwards, she was completely exhausted, no energy, tried it another day, completely exhausted again. It was awful and not what I was hoping for. Any advice? I'd really like to start again, and I wasn't in for too long. Any tips for Anna Lee on the cold?
For me,
oh no, go on.
Okay, personally, one thing for me I found massively beneficial is to make sure I'm not necessarily too hot, but really, really warm and comfortable before getting into the water at all. You know, if there's any kind of slight bit of being slightly too tired or even slightly run down, anything like that totally wiped me out. And I would find myself, the last couple of winters, maybe going for a swim and then being totally wiped out sometimes for most of the day. That's a big one for me. Getting changed and getting recovered really quickly. Maybe just actually literally cut back the time you're in the water to make it super short, 30 seconds or something, and build from there. I don't know what anyone else thinks.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Just go, if you're only in for 10 seconds, that's completely fine. And next time, go for 20 and start incredibly tiny, I would think is completely fine. What I'd love people now we're heading towards the last 10 minutes. I'd love in all the chat here to hear from what you guys are up to. So any exciting adventure plans or swims or something that's a big deal for you, give it a mention there, and I'll try and shout out as many as possible. For all of those in New York City, please join every Sunday at 2:00 at Beach 91 Far Rockaway Beach. I love that we've got New York. This is just awesome. From Newcastle to New York. Nadia, you've made it. Right. Kate, what's your next swim that you're planning? What are you looking forward to at the moment?
I am looking forward to my butterfly, however many meters that I can manage. So that's on the horizon. And I don't know, actually. I tend to make them up kind of nearer the time. Like in Somerset, it hasn't stopped raining for 5 months. It's just hideous here. There's nothing. So I'm just doing my pool training and hoping to get fit. But no, I'm actually hoping to go to Finland to swim in a very wild river with reindeers on the shore. I don't quite know how this trip's going, but that's my big plan for 2024.
Fantastic. Wow, we've got someone's going to BAM, someone's off to Aberystwyth, Sandy Cove, Dublin. This is all kicking off here. This is great. Dingle Beach in Halifax. Oh, that's Nova Scotia, not Halifax, Yorkshire. I can't keep up with this. It's all going on. The Thames Marathon.
Old Harry Rocks. I really want to do that as well. So he's disappearing again, but that sounds like a great plan.
Oh, I can recommend a good pub near there, but no idea about the swimming. The Scilly Isles swimming, Walden Pond. You're not all just showing off now. Walden Pond. I've got a postcard of Walden Pond above my desk. Nadia, what's next for you in terms of swimming and taking over the world with the Wild Service book?
Okay, well, after we've taken over the world with Wild Service and everybody is living in reciprocity with nature, and my next thing that I want to do this year is I want to get myself a UV light and my snorkel, and I want to go snorkeling at night, because a lot of our aquatic animals and our ecosystem shines up in the most incredible colors in UV light. So I want to get over my fear of getting in the water at night into the big black, and see, like sea anemones and all the other amazing creatures that are making their home underwater. That feels really big and scary, but and again, like my sense of adventure is always in the small. I do fear like the big challenges. So until I can nail the Isle of Bute and swim all the way around it and get to know it in daytime and nighttime, then I'll progress, I think, maybe to another Scottish island.
But I love that even when you think know your own local swim very well, you can then try it by night, try it in winter, try it in summer. The more you pay attention, the more curious you are, the more you start to see and it all. Do we have any swimming adventure recommendations for kids aged 10 or so? Kate, I know you any suggestions there?
Oh yes, I saw this question. Someone was looking for an A to B swim for a 10 10-year-old swimmer, and I don't know all the way around the country. So the only one, my boys are 11 and 12, but they mostly like just hurling themselves off something. So I was actually quite envious of this person that they had a 10-year-old who wanted to go somewhere. But I think the best thing that I could think of was the swoosh part of the Bantham swoosh. So Bantham Beach down in Devon, there's a place where you can get in off a little quay, and then I don't know how many, it's like 400 or 500 meters to the end beach. And if you need to do it when there's enough water, like near high tides, and you can go from one end to the other in either direction. And it's just really getting carried along by the tide there, and it's often really clear water. It's absolutely beautiful. One thing to be aware of, though, is that actually for a 10-year-old, it can be quite alarming, the fact the water's moving so fast. So you think it's going to be great because it's like they get a free fairground ride, but they're like, oh my God, the water's stronger than me. So, I mean, I would recommend it, but just make sure a child is happy with it first.
Yeah, I would second that. The swoosh there is just brilliant. You get in by the boat club down there, very good pub just at the top of that hill, and it's brilliant. And you swoosh all the way down, then you can run back up and do it again. So yeah, highly recommend that. Swimming up Snowdon, what are your thoughts? Now that is a cool thing, dipping in all the little lakes on the way up Snowdon. Has anyone got experience of that?
I've done something like
advice?
Well, I've done something like that years ago, but I love that as a concept. And I think maybe just as we're nearing the end, a lot of finding adventure is about finding a framework. And sometimes it doesn't matter if you start out with something slightly artificial or that you don't know that you love, because then you keep tripping over new things. So say it's going to be, I'm going to swim on every full moon of the year. I'm going to swim the length of this river. I'm going to do a sea summit. I'm going to do every lake in my area. Or Al, I mean, your book, I'm going to do everything within one part of a map. Like sometimes if you can't identify what it is you really want to do, just grab a structure that someone else has used and then start exploring, and then things keep kind of snowballing from there.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. Thank you. Yeah, we're heading towards sort of wrapping things up a bit. So I think I'll ask each of you some sort of closing thoughts on what we've been talking about, and to start, hope that we can really encourage people to find their own adventure, define what adventure means to them, to seek out joy in nature. And there's so many different ways at coming at this. So Calum, what would be your parting words of encouragement to people?
I would say, an interesting kind of slightly relating to the last question is one thing I'm looking forward to this year is taking on a swim adventure with a friend, but not planning it in the slightest, letting them totally do it. And so we've done a few trips together so we know each other's capabilities and we know we're maybe similar level ability swimmers. And I've planned previous ones, this time letting him totally do it. So for me, when I planned the ones, I was planning places that I knew, but what excited me was how someone else was going to enjoy them. Maybe I felt, oh, I've been here before, but no, when you bring someone else, it makes that joy come again. That when you see someone else enjoy a place that you love, that brings joy. So hopefully I'm not having to think about anything. I'm just going to turn up and take it all in, soak it all in. So if you can do that for someone else, plan a swim for them, plan an adventure for them, go with them at the same time. That's a brilliant way to, bring a bit of joy to yourself and someone else.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic approach, because we all, with the best will in the world, tend to get a bit stuck in our own ruts of the way we do things. So I think looking down this chat, I think someone hopefully can copy paste this and put it somewhere clever, because there's so much useful stuff in here. But if you can take a different perspective on your swimming adventures and try something different, that's a great way of freshening up your approach. So Nadia, what would be your final thoughts in 2024? Wild service, right to roam, nighttime snorkeling. You got a busy year.
Got a really busy year. Yeah, we've got a book. We've got a big trespass this weekend. If you want to do something terrestrial, take a look at what we're doing on Sunday. But I think Kate's point really struck a chord with me. I don't think that we can really understand what we want from the world and adventure unless we understand what is immediately around us. And I think get a map, interrogate what is around you, look at the map. Where haven't you been? Why haven't you been there? What looks interesting? Why have you always driven from here to there or gone from here to there? And I think obviously, Alastair, you speak to this as well. It's just interrogate your own curiosity, interrogate the landscape around you. Imagine your ancestors, I don't know how many hundreds of years ago, they would have known every single inch of that land. They would have known the source of their water. They would have known the bit where the river turned and babbled, and they would have known all of these boggy bits and dry bits. And I think understand how to read your landscape, get to know it on a really intimate level, and perhaps become a guardian of it. Somebody put in the chat earlier, don't just leave no trace, leave it better. One of the brilliant people in our campaign, Paul Powsland, has become a guardian of the river Roding. He didn't ask permission, but it was in a poor state, and he has removed tons, literally tons of rubbish from this river, and its areas and tributaries which are starting flowing again, which never did. And I think if we can all hold that alongside that side of adventure for 2024, then I guess when you realize how much adventure is in the small, you've literally got a billion possibilities around you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nadia. Yeah, I think a lot of us are accustomed to the notion of leave no trace, and that's of course a good thing. But I think the idea of taking it further to leave a positive trace, whether literally in terms of cleaning up a bit, or culturally in terms of just leaving the environments we care about in a better place. Trash Free Trails is a great group that's really big on leaving a positive trace. And Kate, to finish this up, the Outdoor Swimming Society 2024. What are we going to do to get different people excited about different adventures in different ways and different places?
I think take part in whatever of our social media strands that interests you, like Instagram or Facebook, or maybe to a lesser extent Twitter or elsewhere, all of our communications, because I've been thinking about what we've all been saying about interrogating maps and looking at what's available. But the key thing, which Calum just touched on, about a really good adventure is always the people that you go with. And I think the whole reason why I've loved the OSS as much as I have over the years is that I've met people like you and people like everyone that I've swum with that I wouldn't have met in my normal life. It gets me meeting people who share the same spirit or soul, or, you know, the desire to do the same things. And then I get to go on swim adventures with them. I mean, this time last year, the New York crew that just emailed, messaged in, one of them who's Finnish messaged me and said, okay, I've just invented this winter swimming bootie, would you have a look at the prototype and tell me what you think? And I was like, I don't know anything about your winter swimming bootie, but I'd really love to come to Finland with you. And she's like, come on, I'm going to my granny's cabin next weekend, you can come. And I was so stuck in my parenting Somerset, you know, making tea for the kids sort of life. I went and I had this bonkers 4 days with people that I never knew, and I know I'm really lucky to have been able to do that. But I just think have a look beyond your immediate group and just go, if I was going to be really honest with myself, who do I want to go and stay in a really rubbish B&B with, or who do I want to get really cold and miserable with, and just say yes to it. And then it's not just the adventure, it's not just the place, it's not just about the landscape or the nature, it's also about the people you share it with.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kate. We're going to hand it. Samuel's going to wrap us up now. I'm going to go and listen to some King Creosote, who talks about, I had the best life offered up by this blue marble or any alien world. I shan't complain. No, I shan't complain. Go listen to that song and go swimming. Thank you, guys. Brilliant as always. And thank you, Samuel.
Thank you, everybody. That was absolutely lovely. Really nice to hear all the adventures. And I feel like I need to go for a swim now. Even though it's pitch black outside, I can just harness Nadia's energy to go out and just throw myself in a reservoir here in Sheffield. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining. It's been really nice to see all your kind comments and all the questions coming through. It's been great, and it just shows that there are so many people out there that want to go out and do these kind of things. So like we were saying, there's lots of groups out there for those that want to do it with others, or if you're feeling brave, get out there, do it yourself. Just yeah, enjoy it, have a good time, and you'll never regret it.